Sup? This is Greggatron. How are y'all? Happy Sunday. Hope everybody's doing just well. I sure am. I got a sword review for you guys. It's been a while. So today, I'm gonna talk about this. Oh man. Yes. So this is Kenpachi Zaraki sword from Bleach. If you don't know who that is, it's this guy. This guy right here. My favorite Soul Reaper. I talked about Thor in another video recently, how Thor used to be brutal, and so was Hulk. As far as anime goes, this dude was straight brutal, straight savage. I liked him because he didn't really have a form or a technique. He was just a straight monster, just straight savage. And the sword he used perfectly fits his personality and his style. Because there was nothing special about him. He was just strong as hell. And he was just a force. A brutal force to be reckoned with. So, when I saw this at the Midwest Toy Fair, I knew I had to have it. Because the last time I saw Sword Guy, I wanted it, but I couldn't afford it. I bought some other stuff. So when I saw this one, I was like, alright, bet. And this was actually the only one he had. This is the one that was on display. So shout out to these quad cons, shout out to the Comic Cons, shout out to the Midwest Toy Fairs, shout out to the Anime Fests, shout out to all these events going on with these types of items. Alright, and as you can see, this thing is long as hell. Alright, I'm 6 feet tall, and this sword with the sheath is 56? I wrote it down. Yeah, with the sheath it's 56 inches. So that's just under 5 feet. And I'm 6 feet. I'm between 6 and 6'1". It's flat on the floor, and it goes up to my shoulder almost. Like, look at that. Crazy. Without the sheath, it's about 53 inches. That's from the handle to the blade. So that means the sheath gives you 3 extra inches. I'm like, for real? Like, for real? Now, let's talk about the sword. One thing I noticed right off the bat when I picked it up, this is extremely loose from the blade. If I turn it, it'll just fall out. See? I don't even have to touch it. See? So I mentioned that to the sword guy before I bought it, and he told me you can take this tape, the same tape you use to wrap bandages to patch yourself up. Just take individual pieces of tape, he said, and just put it on the inside. Just one side, not both sides, but just put 1 or 2 or more pieces of tape on that one side to make it thicker on the inside. Because he said, and this is true, in many cases it's the opposite. It's hard to get the sword out of the sheath. And I have swords that are like that. It's like you have to fight with the thing just to take the sword out, which it shouldn't be that difficult. On the other hand, it shouldn't be that easy to take the sword out because you don't want it to just fall out while you're, carrying it. And granted, you shouldn't just turn it upside down just to do it. But there has to be a perfect balance in between taking the sword out easily and not too easily. So that's the first thing I noticed. The access is too easy, which I can fix that with his advice. And I'm sure there's other things you can do. Alright, another thing I noticed, let me get this out of the way. At the tip of the sheath, it's either this side or the other side, the handle. This is just glue that's holding this in. And most swords have that, you know what I'm saying? That's all it is glue. It's there, but I am in need of some new glue. So, if this thing falls off during the video, just know it needs new glue, that's all. Or I might just leave it off just so it doesn't fall off. But you guys know that this is where it belongs. Alright. Now, the main, I guess I would say, gripe I have with this sword. When I first opened it out the box, and even when I was looking at it at the convention, I noticed this was like super loose. I guess you would call this the guard. And I'm like, why is this so loose? Well, then when I got home, I just turned this and I tightened it. So I was like, oh, okay. So it shouldn't be that loose. So make sure your stuff is tight, but it just felt weird. And furthermore, the blade itself, I'll take it out real quick. The blade itself, even though I tightened this, it still feels loose because it's so dang on long, right? So even with the sheath off, it's still, like I said, 53 inches, but it still feels flimsy, which it should feel flimsy to some degree because it's so long, but I think that the blade stops here. It's hard to say, but I don't even know because I can see the screw right there, but it just feels too flimsy. Honestly, it doesn't feel that bad right now, but I was looking at it the other day and I was like, man, this thing is wobbly as a mug, but it looks great. I mean, let me go back to the sheath real quick before I start with the blade. So this wrap, I call it toilet paper. It reminds me of the wrap Ichigo Kurosaki, the main character, used to use, right? And this is really comfortable. I really like the sheath. Real nice. Very nice, very nice. Alright. And it's just so long. Like, geez. You know? The blade. This blade is something else. Alright. Look at it. They really captured the blade pretty well with all the jagged, raggedy looking edges. Because Kenpachi Zaraki was like a master in combat. I mean, this dude's been through so many battles. Probably, if not dozens, hundreds of battles. The sword describes him perfectly. Because notice this man didn't go to a swordsmith or a blacksmith and have it repaired. Nah, man. Clearly he didn't care. But, like I said, it's a reflection of his personality. So he's a raggedy person, therefore his sword's going to be raggedy with him. You know what I'm saying? But I love that. One thing I did like about Bleach was the relationship between the character and that person's Zanpakuto, meaning that person's sword. Because they were like a symbiotic relationship. They needed their sword. And in many cases, the sword had its own spirit, so the sword needed them too. It was like a partnership. That's why I call it symbiotic. Let's talk about the handle real quick. Very nice. And look at the handle is probably like a foot long in itself. It's crazy. I took that off for a reason. You just saw that. But look at this. Look at this. I got a hand here, and I got pretty big hands. And here. And I still got a whole hand's worth of room down here. So it's clearly a two-handed sword. Right? And I like Kenpachi Zaraki because, like I said, he had no stance. He would just swing this mug. Just without any type of care on how he was. He had no technique, no nothing. Just brutal savagery. Back to the handle. You got the guard. This might be my favorite thing about his sword. That very distinct look. You don't see this type of guard on any other anime sword. Not that I've seen. If you've seen a sword that looks like this from a different character, let me know in the comments section. It's definitely one of a kind. And it's long as heck. And it's brutal. And it really projects strength. Now, you got this piece, which I've seen it before in different swords. Now, the blade. Look at that. Look at that. You got the black part on the side without the blade. Then the blade side is all silver. It's something else. It's something else. And before I forget, I was at the mall looking for this sword actually to see if they could get it. And they were able to get it, but the one they were able to get wouldn't have been as long as this one. It would have been like the size of a normal standard katana. So I was like, you know what? I'm good. I don't want that one. I knew this sword was out there because I seen it before at the other quad con. So I wanted the long sword. And then when I got it, I didn't even realize it was that dang on long. And then I compared it to a different sword, which I'll show you that in a minute. This is the longest sword I have. Alright, 56 inches with the sheath. And it is pretty sharp. And I like how the edge of the blade looks black. So it's like black, silver, and then black again, where you get to the very edge. But yeah, I was talking about the length. Let me show you a comparison real quick, just so you believe me. This is 53 inches without the sheath. It's actually between 53 and 54 inches, right? So this sword I showed you guys months ago, it's a no dachi, meaning it's a longer version of a katana. And this still towers over this, even with this one's sheath and this one without the sheath. So look at that. And look at the handle too. The handle is way longer. I mean, it's crazy. And again, this is with the sheath, and it's still way longer. The Nodachi, I wrote down 46 inches. So 46 with the sheath versus 56 with this one with the sheath. So it's a 10-inch difference in between swords. That's crazy to me. And when I got this, I thought it was long as heck. And it is. And then I got this thing and I was like, wow. That's why I went to the garage with this video, because there's more open space out here. Whereas in my living room, it's like, whoa, I'm going to be knocking the toys over. I'm going to be hitting furniture. I'm going to be scratching the floor up and whatnot. But swords like this, you just got to be careful how you wield it. And you got to mind your surroundings. Always be aware of what's around you. You've seen my garage, it's pretty open. So I can mess around a little bit out here. You know, you still got the ceiling you got to worry about, but I'm not going to be running around swinging this thing in the house and in the garage. Now, will I take it to the park and swing? Probably not. That's what the practice swords are for. I'm not trying to get arrested out in these streets. What's that guy doing in the park swinging that sword? You know, a big swole brother with a sword, that might scare people. So when I do go to the park and practice, I always take my wooden sword. I really like this thing. Is it perfect? No, because of the things I talked about. The way I do this, it feels like the blade starts here. And I could be wrong. And I say that because when this was still loose, the blade was super flimsy. But once I tightened this, it was much more tight. It was much better off. So I'm like, I wonder if I take this thing off altogether, just this, will the whole blade come off? And I'm not sure because, like I said, I see a screw right there. So, yeah. What would I give this sword? It's hard to say, man. As a replica, it's great. But as a sword itself, and it's non-functioning, by the way, clearly, you're not supposed to use it on people or to cut fruit or wood or anything like that. It's definitely non-functioning, but still, as a non-functioning sword, if I rate it for something that I wouldn't use, I still give it a good score. I don't know. It's really hard to rate this thing because it's so weird and different and unique. I'm not gonna give it a grade because it's not fair. But the overall look, I'm gonna put this pommel back on. The overall look, it's a damn good replica. I mean, it really captures the character very well. And the blade is just magnificent as far as the detail. And I don't have any other swords that look like this blade or handle. So if I did rate it, I would definitely give it a good grade as to being different. And as far as capturing the character. Is it flimsy? Yeah. Does it feel like it'll break if you swing too hard? Yeah. But that's not what this sword is for. The sword is for the look. You know, it's made to be art. It's not meant to be a weapon. With that said, I'll give it a B+. Yeah. Let's sheath this thing. Oh yeah. Somebody in the comment section months ago said, hey man, you need to practice sheathing that thing. So here I go. Kenpachi Zaraki sword from Bleach. This is Greggatron. I hope you have a good weekend. And peace.